Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Industry.live's second podcast. We are so excited to have you all. We are speaking with Anna today. Anna is an AI consultant and she has worked with several businesses across Canada. She's going to talk to us today about what businesses ask her to help with and what kind of solutions they typically find working for them. Anna, so happy to have you. Can you please introduce yourself for our audience?
Yes, of course. Hello, Sumik. Thank you. I'm really thrilled to be here on the second podcast, very special. So, like Sumik has said, I've worked with some of the top Canadian innovation teams, and I've been in the innovation space for over 10 years. So, naturally, every new wave of tech, I'm one of the first to be the person adopting that and introducing it into the business in order to improve efficiencies. So, what I've been doing with my consulting work at the moment is helping businesses run their business more effectively, cutting down on time, and making sure that people inside the business don't burn out. And AI presents an incredible opportunity right now for every business owner, for every senior level leader to optimize the performance on the team without adding new hires and without burning out their staff.
All right. So let's start with your story. How did you get into AI consulting? What drew you into this?
Well, you know what? I'm no stranger to new technologies. And in the early days of 3D printing, I was the person who was working on that cutting edge technology, then introducing the solutions into the manufacturing market, 3D fabrication, innovation in that space. And at the time, that was something wild and new and, crazy, and people were going gaga over it. And then nowadays, what I've noticed is that the new kind of wave of major technological transformation is going to be AI. And having worked with clients on improving their business operations, I used to help them in a number of ways when it comes to their process and efficiency. And as the early AI tech started emerging, like ChatGPT, I immediately started incorporating that into our workflows, helping them save time. And so some of my clients have been able to create efficiencies in their process where they optimize the work to the point of doing the stuff that would take them 5 hours in 2 hours. So, for example, I had the founder of a startup accelerator who was able to dramatically increase her performance just through a smart combination of workflow optimization and AI. And at that point, I thought, okay, I think there is definitely something here. It's still early days. And then the technology started developing very fast. And I saw the opportunity for the businesses and I decided to go all in because I think at this point in time, there is just a huge opportunity for business owners to leverage the technology to increase their revenue margins, to do things better in a more efficient way, and to keep their people more happy without burning out some of that talent, the senior talent that is really good at what they do, and also keeping them on board too, because these people want to be a part of something that's new, that's cutting edge as well. So that's kind of how I got into it. And so far, so good. It's moving fast, and I'm trying to keep up with all the latest developments.
You're somebody who adapts AI tools to suit businesses versus advising them to sort of start from scratch, build those data platforms and get into it necessarily. Not that that's not something that you can advise them on, but that's something that you don't usually go with unless it's absolutely necessary. I really like that approach. Can you tell us more about how you become familiar with these tools and your process to understand all the tools in the market so that you can advise businesses?
I think right now there are multiple things happening in the industry. Of course, there are large companies that are working with building out their internal, very advanced, very proprietary solutions, which work with their respective data lakes and, the data that they have. There's no shortage of internal development of machine learning and various AI solutions that are going to be a part of the corporate IP. Those have been going on for a while, and those will continue being developed. But outside of that, what's happening is that just an average employee in your company right now is suddenly getting the idea of maybe trying ChatGPT for their day-to-day work. And that is a little bit different because now we are looking at not core IP, inside of the company. We are looking at personal productivity of an individual and productivity of a team as a whole and perhaps department. And previously, we really didn't have such great ways of optimizing that, because before maybe you would hire more people. Maybe, you would have better process. And as someone who has definitely been around tech transformation and, agile transformation and being a part of that, I've definitely seen how that can make teams more efficient. But now suddenly we're getting this crazy new opportunity to just kind of crank up efficiency to 11, if you will. So that's what's happening. We have these two things going on. And what I specialize in is working with teams on the productivity level and advising companies on how they can leverage existing tools and platforms to optimize productivity without needing to build out something that is really complex, super expensive. And we can get into this a little bit deeper because there are several stages of AI solutions that companies can take advantage of.
That's awesome. Your site calls you Dopamine Queen. Can you tell us more behind the philosophy of that name?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, part of the unique approach that I take when it comes to working with founders, executives, with professionals is that when you adopt AI solutions, it's not just a matter of technology, it's a matter of cultural transformation and the mindset change. And so, as a trained coach, I use the techniques that help people rewire their brain to literally perform more productively. So then you couple the technology with the mindset shift, and that's where you really get breakthrough results. And so Dopamine Queen, because dopamine is that ultimate molecule, neurotransmitter in our brain that's responsible for getting things done, for that feeling of reward, like we nailed this, it's done on time, we delivered it, it's that good feeling. Super important chemical. And, having worked as a research lead at a brain sensing device company, I know quite a bit about the way that our motivational system works inside of our brain. And so I leverage that in my coaching, executive coaching, when I work with clients.
So it seems like you've worked with a lot of different kinds of clients. You already mentioned, working with somebody who ran a startup incubator. What kind of clients do you typically deal with? And can you tell us more about their individual needs?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's companies, individuals from all walks of life. And maybe for the purpose of this conversation, it would be useful to talk about industries more than anything, because I want to make sure that we talk about specific use cases so people can visualize how AI can be applied in their company or on their team to optimize their process. And so I'll give you an example. One of the teams I'm currently engaged with is a health tech company. And when I get started, initially, I want to make sure that I have an understanding of where the team is at with their AI familiarity, let's say, right? And then we don't want to build complex solutions right away, but we just start with some trainings that introduce the team to ways of working with conversational agents that can help you solve your day-to-day activities. So, for example, working with a project manager to help them plan better and more quickly, working, with a PMO office to make sure that it's easier for them to keep tabs on multiple variables in their project management routine, because AI is excellent at considering multiple inputs at the same time, something that a human brain isn't capable of doing. You have a million variables, you can input that into the AI, and it is such an excellent planning advisor and co-pilot that people like project and product managers can use it. And then you have folks in other capacities, like people who do analytics, people who do research. Their workflows can be greatly enhanced as well. Because when it comes to data analysis, again, you have stuff that used to take you a week or 2 weeks, and now you can use AI that's out there, and you can work through that data much more quickly. Then next use case. Do you like putting together presentation decks and report? But you have to be honest.
I used to enjoy it, but I think now not anymore.
Okay, because I personally was never a fan of it. I mean, I've always had to do it, but it's a bit of a slog sometimes, especially if you have a lot of information and you are really trying to think what story you're telling with this presentation, depending on the stakeholders, right? And the type of audience you have there. And so that can be optimized as well. And instead of spending a week or 2 weeks putting together that report, let's do it in a day or 2 days maximum by leveraging AI, conversational AI, and that interaction. So that is level one of how I engage with companies that want team training. We just work at the level of something that people are already doing. I identify areas where we can create more efficiency, and then we workshop through prompts that can be used to help them get those things done faster. And so in different industries, you'll have different limitations, right? So for example, I've worked in the financial industry in the past. They have certain compliance requirements. And then you have health tech in the healthcare industry. Again, you have privacy concerns. And when I come in to work with a client, it's about figuring out what are the regulations in the industry or what are the specific things that need to be considered. And that training is always tailored to that. Because Sumik, there is a thing about AI. If you start working with AI to speed up your process for content creation, for planning and all that, have you noticed how oftentimes it will kind of give you garbage results? And I think that's a problem a lot of the time because people see the garbage results and they go, I don't think this is gonna help me. This is kind of useless. And so when I come in, I give people custom designed prompts that leverage the understanding of how you properly interact with this AI in order to get the best result. So these prompts are custom designed for these, whether it's project managers, these researchers, to get a good output, because you need to go through a certain reasoning process with the AI in order to get that best result. And then you also need a framework. Each company in the future, I believe, will need an AI framework. So I develop AI frameworks for my clients as well. So, you know how I mentioned healthcare and they have their compliance requirements. You don't want to just go into AI and get it to assist you with your data analysis or your report without having the context of you're a health tech company. Because if it doesn't have the context, it might actually give you wrong advice. So what I also work on is creating frameworks that will give AI that context. So we input it additionally. So it will consider like the HIPAA compliance or whatever compliance regulations are required in your specific industry.
I think that's a really good example. It sort of talks through all of the things that you see with the customer that you're dealing with and their stuff. So that's really, really great for our audience who's also trying to understand how AI can be something they use within their workflows today. Um, Given that you speak with so many different kinds of clients, especially, you have connections with the diversity, I would say, because you speak with startup owners and leaders who don't have so much regulation. And you also deal with, like you said, financial services customers who have tons of regulation to deal with, privacy to think about. And for you, in that sense, what are some of the myths you hear from them when you first have a conversation? And what are the myths that you need to debunk immediately?
Things to debunk. That's interesting. Well, I mean, it kind of goes both ways. Some people are overly excited about AI and they really think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. So we just want to put that everywhere, get it to do everything. But unfortunately, it's still early days. We still can't do a lot of things with it on an organizational level. And in fact, it's not wise to apply it really widely on an organizational level. And that has to do with the fact that Sumik, one of the big parts of AI implementation inside of a company is the quality of data that goes into these AI solutions. And pretty soon companies will start realizing that their AI solutions may not be operating well, may be giving them erroneous results or unreliable results or low quality results because the foundation of that data processing, data cleaning, just data collection and organization hasn't been set up for them. So this is kind of next tier of AI application we're talking about. Right now, I was just talking about very one-off interacting with a conversational AI assistant where you solve some of the things you do on a day-to-day basis. There are other applications of AI too, right? When we talk about AI agents. And when you start implementing more complex solutions, you of course need to make sure that the data that goes into them is high quality. So at some point, probably within the next couple of years, maybe 3 years or so, companies are going to start talking about the fact that AI isn't working as well because the data component hasn't been set up right. And they will start making sure that part is working correctly, which is why I was just reading about a big acquisition the other day. Maybe you've heard about it. Who was it? It was Salesforce that acquired a data company that's called Informatica, I believe. And Salesforce has been investing aggressively in their AI development and their AI agents. And I think they're one of the leaders in the market right now because they already understand how important the data is. So that's kind of like one side. Someone is too excited. Let's just put it everywhere, do everything with it. But, we got to be careful. So, like the level at which I help companies right now is the safest, and you can get the most leverage at that level, like team productivity. But things beyond that, it's a little bit more in the future, a little bit more unknowns. And then some people are on the other end of the spectrum, perhaps very conservative, very worried, perhaps uncomfortable with the whole idea of AI being leveraged in the business for process optimization. And there, it's a big cultural shift. And it seems like people at the executive level often will be really forward thinking when it comes to AI, but maybe people below them aren't necessarily so ready yet. And it's ultimately a culture change initiative. And it's about leading the whole team, the whole company in that direction. So I don't know what your experience has been. What are you seeing in the industry?
Personally, I think so. Just a little bit of background for me. I come from an agency, but I've worked with news organizations as well as on the company side where I've helped with their corporate communications, marketing, and I would say PR. And I think the thing that I've seen most impact my space is people using ChatGPT to write whatever they need to write, and then editors receiving content from PR folks and understanding that this has been written by AI and not appreciating that. And then obviously other sort of use cases where articles are written for SEO and people have churned out tons of content for SEO, put them on their websites in the hopes that it's going to make their website appear on the first page of Google. And then still others where, people are trying to use more sophisticated AI models to get some kind of image generation or some kind of video generation. I've just been looking at what Google's VO3 model is doing with video. It is fantastic. It's producing very realistic content that people or brands typically spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make. And these videos really prove to you that if a company really wants, they can now have their own dedicated influencers online who build whatever they need to promote their products and services in a subtle way. And it can be done in a really seamless, low cost manner. So I think for the industry that I've been in, this right now represents a dramatic shift. And it's going to really change the face of everything that people do. And it's going to really impact budgets because leaders and businesses who are paying for all of this, they are not out of touch. They know what things cost. They know how things are going. So I think this is going to be an amazing shift for them to see and for us to see how they choose to spend their dollars when it comes to promoting and doing work that's in the space.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so that's very interesting. Yes, the PR brand space, people creating content. Perhaps I can share with you a scenario for how AI can work in that situation because it will be immediately relevant to what you are familiar with. That situation of, the editor receives the stuff that sounds very much bot generated. It's very, recognizable AI script. So and that is ultimately the issue right now, because when people start using it in the company, and there is no greater AI transformation initiative in the company that has a structure of some kind, then people will get disappointed with the results pretty quickly. Oh, it's AI generated, looks like garbage. I still have to edit it a bunch. What is the point? Still spending the same amount of time. This is where, if I was coming in, for example, with a stage 1 solution, I would run a training around the brand voice agent creation. And we would be able to then, stage 2, build an AI agent for the company that learns from the voice of the company or the voice of your clients if you're an agency, and then is able to produce the pieces that are written in actual brand voice. Just like, an example. I know Ryanair is kind of popular because their brand voice is very recognizable. It's really fun. It's really whimsical. So imagine this. If in the past Ryanair was your client and at 2 a.m. you suddenly find out that there's been some kind of acquisition on their end, and by 8 a.m. in the morning, they have to release a statement, an acquisition statement. And you as the agency have to blast that across the channels by 8 a.m. And, your best copywriter is on maternity leave. Someone else can't do it on short notice. And you're stuck with maybe, I don't know, Sarah. Sarah, she's not a pro at copywriting or anything, but you gotta go with it. Sarah is gonna be doing it, and she's gonna be awake all night trying to write that CEO statement using his voice, the brand voice, making sure that it sounds authentic. And she's absolutely sweating bullets over that first paragraph because she knows at 8 a.m. he's gonna be reading it and everything is on stake because, I don't know, it's like a $300,000 client that they might lose immediately if this is not done right. So that's kind of a typical situation before AI. And then with a custom AI agent that actually replicates the brand voice and learns from all these quirky ways that the company communicates, the situation is totally transformed. So I remember seeing a post by Ryanair. That one was kind of fun, where it was on Twitter, and it was a customer of theirs who bought tickets that snapped a picture of the cabin, and she's got 2 windows almost side by side from where she's sitting. And she says, I only paid for 1 window, but here I am, I've got 2. And Ryanair responds with, you are only allowed to look out of one of them. So cheeky, so relatable, so unique, so unlike other companies. You absolutely want to make sure that tone, that way of communicating is leveraged in everything the company puts out. And so this AI agent will be able to take in all of these data points, the ways that the CEO communicates as well, what he's put out before, analyze all of that using the framework that we created for him so he does a good job. And then this AI employee will write you an acquisition statement that will sound amazing. So if before Sarah was dying, working at night, so much pressure on her and the whole agency, now she would just crack open this AI agent. She would quickly put in the prompt that she needs to, and she would get a response back, 800 words within next 10 minutes, she'll be done. And in the morning, when the CEO sees this statement, he'll go, my gosh, that really sounds like me. This is wild. You guys have done a great job. And then as an agency, you're basically keeping them as a client for many more years and raising your retainer by 40% because of the amazing work you do. And Sarah is getting her 5 hours of sleep instead of staying up all night. That's just one example of how it can work for communications.
Yeah, that sounds really good and sounds really exciting. I think a lot of people definitely want to be able to use it that way. So the next question would be, what do they need to do to take it from that experimentation phase where they are going online to these systems, trying things out by themselves, whether individually or in their teams, to the next phase, which is integration, where they bring it in-house in a way that makes sense for the company and levels them up a notch so that they can deliver the results that, like you said, would wow the clients or deliver applause for them?
Well, first of all, I think a company would need to make a commitment to an AI transformation, because if it's just a grassroots kind of effort, that usually doesn't get result, doesn't go too far. There's always people who are enthusiastic about something, but it doesn't kind of result in a broader transformation of the process for the company. So definitely a commitment to some kind of very intentional initiative around AI adoption. And we should all be treating this as, digital transformation 2.0 movement in the industry. We should be treating it that way. Just the way we were all crazy about, apps and, mobile and all that, we need to basically do same thing about AI right now. Have some kind of initiative inside the company that has structure around it. So what I would propose to clients of mine is having some kind of KPIs in terms of the before and after. Like when I put together proposals for clients, I always make some rough calculations for ROI that they can expect. And then as part of this initiative, you need the KPIs so you can understand how well it's working, and you can also incentivize people to participate. And so at stage one, my approach personally is that people just need to become comfortable at first with using AI. They just need to kind of see how it applies in their day-to-day process. They don't have to become experts at it. This is where getting someone to guide them works quite well, giving them some templated solutions. So for example, I might come in and go, okay, so to get the best result out of your agent right now, when you're chatting to them, to get the voice you want, you'll want to put in these following prompts that have been designed to get the result that you need. So just use these templates, right? Like the level 1 training that I do, I just bring in the templates. You guys get all the templates. Just use these templates and you'll get this type of result every time. Okay, they start there. They get comfortable with it. Now the company is on track to seeing some kind of result because they're using AI correctly. They're not getting disappointed in it. So you have adoption. The employees are getting behind it. They're not getting all frustrated because I'm still editing, this article from the copywriter manually. What's the point? Okay, so they're kind of getting on board. The next level is to foster the solutions internally. And that's where I recommend what I call an AI hackathon. An AI hackathon, in a similar way to just any tech hackathon, is where we bring together people from internal teams to brainstorm and work on prototyping solutions for a whole day. It's a facilitated event where people go through a series of steps to analyze their process, identify areas that can be optimized with AI, and then we kind of quickly brainstorm. And if we have people who maybe have the capacity inside of this event to prototype something, we even prototype it on the spot. And this is really good because this way the whole team can get involved. And more importantly, the people inside the company will have the best knowledge of their own unique process. Everyone knows what they're doing every day that is maybe annoying or maybe repeatable or whatever it is. So why not source the pain points straight from the people on the team and come up with some automated solutions on the spot? Of course, those will need to be refined after, but the point is we kind of identified where we can place the solutions just in one day and getting people engaged. And then stage 3 of AI adoption inside the company would be building agents, AI agents. Now, we can also talk about this because there is a big difference between just working with ChatGPT and inputting some prompts and copying stuff, doing whatever you need to do with it, versus running AI agents inside of your company.
Well, I love listening to what you're saying. And I think you're really hitting the nail on the head when you talk about the different phases in which you drive transformation with respect to AI. And I'm absolutely with you that this needs to be the next digital transformation that companies sort of drive within their teams by making sure that they have that phased approach, but also very dedicated and very conscious effort to make sure that people understand. But my next question to you would be, we've seen a lot of people resistant to AI in the early days, and a lot of them have, sort of now jumped on the bandwagon because they've seen how helpful it is. But still, there is resistance because people are definitely scared of losing the job that they're doing, whether or not they lose the job itself or the job changes in a way that makes it difficult for them to do or requires more effort, because now they're sort of required to spend more time thinking, and the creative capacity or the creative output becomes what they're judged on. So in your opinion, you've already talked about, culture being important, mindset being important. How do you tackle that? If you see resistance, how do you deal with that? And how do you sort of help people overcome that?
I'm not gonna pretend this is not difficult for people, and I almost have a different set of messaging for leadership versus the team members, because leadership just looks at this as a business objective and they're driving efficiency. They need to look at the bottom line, and we all understand that. But when it comes to employees, we gotta have empathy for what people are experiencing as well. And we are going through one of the biggest, most dramatic shifts in the history of industrial world. I can throw around these big words because I've been in innovation for over 10 years, and starting with people like Clayton Christensen, who's talked about the industrial revolution and the changes. We've been kind of like steeped in this understanding the whole time in the innovation industry. But for an average person, this is yet to kind of like really hit them. And this is not going to be easy for anyone out there. But you got to approach this with a lot of compassion and understanding. And so when I come into a company, my goal is to try to level with the people who are taking the training and help them understand that this is not to make them work harder. This is to actually allow them to go home on time, to not do overtime, to not be overwhelmed, burnt out, losing your mind about doing the job of three people. Because let's be honest, the budgets right now are kind of shrinking. A lot of roles aren't being hired for. A lot of people are very stretched, and a lot of people are feeling the impact of the economy and just this, AI uncertainty. So a lot of people are doing double the work they've been doing before. And so I kind of try to frame it in a way where, guys, this is not to kind of make you do more work. This is to make your leadership wants to make sure that the talent it has and has invested in heavily stays, doesn't burn out, and this is to make your existing job easier. No, we're not gonna hire a couple of junior people to help you with this work, but at least you can make it more manageable with AI. I don't know if this is the right approach, but I think it's a humane approach and it's an honest approach. And I myself am a mental health advocate. My company, Dopamine Queen, is all based around working with the brain, leveraging brain science. And as someone who has burnt out in my early 30s, being one of the top producers and, always a high performer, I had to grapple with the consequences of that. And I realized that you can only be hyper productive if you also are very good at managing your work and how you think about your work in a very structured way, and way that is not gonna basically burn you out over long term. It doesn't mean working less or slacking. It means about strategically managing your work. So what I bring into my consulting is this mix of efficiency with a deep compassion and understanding for people and just how we work as humans.
I totally agree with you. Honesty is definitely the best policy, and the humane approach is definitely something people will appreciate in workspaces that you go into. Do you sometimes see that the leadership have a particular idea about AI when they talk to you and want to integrate AI into their operations, and it is not suitable for their team? And how do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that because I haven't come across those situations yet, but feel free to throw an example at me if you'd like that we can discuss.
Right. So, as an example, I think some of the leaders in startup companies, I think, are always very excited about AI. I've heard of, a few of them talk about how AI is going to be used, right now in their companies. And it seems like what they want to do is they want to get people to do more with less. And it doesn't mean that they don't have their employees' best interest at heart. It's just that they feel that because it is making things so easy, team should produce way more. And if the company as a whole, if they need to produce better results for themselves in the shortest time that they can, AI is the way to go. So they have that mindset, but on the ground, the people in the team, they're not really ready for to use AI in the way that the leader imagines or envisions, because the tools that they have, they're not based in the data lakes that you talked about initially. So they don't have all of that built in, but a leader doesn't really want to understand that. They want to probably use AI to build those data lakes more quickly and more efficiently. How do you deal with a situation like that?
Right, right. I think as part of this cultural transformation we talked about, there needs to be a component that works with the leadership versus with the team. And working with the leadership is about helping them understand where AI is right now, what is it capable of. Speaking of which, for anyone listening to this down the road, if you're an executive, if you're a C-suite level leader, you can reach out to me to get a report specifically for C-suite leaders that will give you very no-nonsense, non-technical explanation of different levels of AI and how it can be applied in your organization, as well as a little bit of forecasting of where we are heading and what are the limitations as well. And so I think there needs to be that education component, because leaders need to be armed with real world understanding of what's feasible right now versus what is more of a hype type of thing, because there's a lot of hype for sure, and you don't want to burn out your organization by kind of jumping into this and thinking you're going to get some kind of immediate transformation in productivity, because frankly speaking, your people are not even using it at the basic level yet, and you already want to kind of go as fast as a racing horse, but it's not rooted in reality. Having a strategy is super important, and understanding that it will take years to actually build a robust AI-driven organization. And there are stages to this process. And I think reminding people about digital transformation and everything that's involved in it is super helpful, because this is a sort of milestone in the industry that we can refer to. We already understand that stuff didn't happen in a week or even in 6 months. People needed whole teams around that to really drive that within the company. And it takes time to take your existing stack, for example, and start building AI solutions using this stack. We are also in a situation where a lot of the AI tools are still being developed. Everything is super new. So there will be constant change. And we need to be realistic and pragmatic about it. But oftentimes with startup companies, they can be more aggressive about these demands because A, they can, and B, it's just pure arrogance, right? Which, sort of build fast, break things, and see what happens after. But a more established organization can't afford that approach. For example, if you're a bank or you're a large established agency with reputation, you are not going to have this aggressive sort of build it, break it, and then we figure it out policy. You're going to need to be smart about it. And when it comes to digital transformation, you remember the whole aspect of culture transformation. It took time because it's about changing people's process. It's not about just tools. It ultimately is about changing people's process. And so, having been blessed by the presence of all these agile coaches in my life and having been a presenter at the Agile Toronto conference, I'm a part of a community that understands what it takes to create change in people and how they work. And those things are projects that are starting from a year to like 5 years normally, right? So yeah, I would say this is a long-term project, and companies should be approaching it as such, not as a let's immediately AI everything and just go super fast.
Speaking of more established organizations, a lot of them are very structured in the sense they have, a CEO, and then they have various SVPs. Those SVPs have a ton of VPs reporting to them who have directors, and then that structure flows down. So a lot of AI can replace some of those roles. But for the rest of that structure, how do you see AI playing a role in, and do you think that structure needs to now slowly fold so that there's a flatter organization with CEOs leading larger teams of teams?
Mm. There has been over the several decades a general trend towards flattening the organization. Of course, we have seen that with a lot of the ownership being moved to more junior team members. The flattening trend, of course, has been going on and it continues. AI is only going to enhance it. But there is going to be a long gap between now and when we are truly able to replace people in management positions with AI. Because in ideal world, when we paint a picture of an AI-driven organization, we have certain more senior level individual contributors who are leveraging AI to enhance their processes. There has to be a human in the loop. The person needs to be knowledgeable. So they're going to be using multiple agents to execute parts of their work. And then, of course, if the organization is truly AI enabled, it will have some kind of reporting and monitoring and data dashboards that will be able to roll up the individual performers, individual contributors into some kind of, management level dashboard type of thing. But at the end of the day, Sumik, how much of that can we really just put on autopilot and just have a dashboard run a company? That sounds like some kind of science fiction movie that I don't believe will ever become real. We still need people managing people because that is the hardest part of running a business. And it's a higher level set of skills that is necessary that an AI dashboard does not possess. So I think it's going to be a long time before we really truly flatten the organization at the management level. We need people who can make high level decisions well, who understand how to deal with humans. And people at different levels of leadership are just going to start using AI as an advisor. So if people at more individual contributor types of roles are going to be using AI as a way to help them with parts of their routines and tasks and repetitive things, then people at more senior leadership levels are going to be using AI as a decision-making tool. And that's where it becomes very important to have frameworks. So a lot of the clients I've worked with individually or leaders, they would require frameworks for choosing the scaling model for their business, for example, or how to go about, the model for charging for their services. All of those things, they need to make these decisions. What's the best way to make decisions? Well, you have a bunch of inputs into the system that helps you, and it gives you the options. And then you as a leader will make an informed decision. I think actually leadership of the next era is going to be a lot more informed and will find their work much easier and eliminate a lot of that cognitive fatigue, which people who lead, they have a lot of that. Constant decisions, a lot of pressure, obviously a lot of responsibility. So I think it's going to be so great for them, so much leverage in terms of making more informed decisions. But that comes with a caveat. The advisory function of AI is going to be only as good as the design of that AI and the input in it. So again, it needs to be designed using a framework that's created for you and your company.
Amazing. I think you've really helped us understand not only the work that you do, but also what you're seeing with leaders, your conversations with them, and how they can leverage AI within their teams. I think the waves that you talked about, the first wave, the second wave, the third wave of frameworks that you use, I think it's all fantastic. I think this has really been an exciting conversation for us.
The main trend is that it's not an AI trend, it's a almost macro level trend that we all are going to have to deal with now. It's the quickening. It's the quickening of change, which we as humans just haven't been prepared for because it's now happening at a pace that never happened in human history before. So we all need to be ready for the fact that if before, you as a company could get away with year-long cycle of figuring something out. Now things are going to be changing faster. Your competitors are going to be getting a hold of technology that will dramatically increase their ability to do something more efficiently. And so you need to keep up with that, and you need to be agile. And all of that is happening in an environment where these new AI tools are coming out so rapidly that it's difficult to also keep up with the newest tech, as well as the changes in that technology. And you can even see with some of these large AI solutions like OpenAI, Anthropic, the updates are happening so fast that literally 1 week you were at one level of performance, and next week you realize, like what you just told me, we can put together cinematic quality videos using Google's platform. That was not possible last week. So I believe as part of this AI transformation, leaders will need to now deploy a new kind of approach where they might also want to have an initiative around strategic monitoring of changes and really rapid market insights. And you can do that using agents as well. Like, the different levels of AI adoption I talked about strategically. 1 to at level 3, when your organization is already prepared to integrate AI agents, we can potentially build an AI agent for an organization that will help them with that rapid real-time monitoring of trends and change. And somebody is going to have to be basically abreast of that on a continuous basis. I think things will move much more rapidly now for organizations. At least they will feel like they need to keep up more. That's kind of like the main trend, I would say. And mentally, we also need to be prepared for that. It's a bit uncomfortable, but this is what's happening.
That's great to hear from you. What would be one piece of advice you would give to business leaders who are still intimidated by AI?
I would say the advice is we're entering the Wild West AI territory. And if you are not acting, if you're not discovering that inner cowboy in yourself, at least a little bit, and just, going for it, then you might find yourself left behind. So everybody needs to start exploring it, even if it's within kind of the safety and the guardrails of very simple basic trainings. But it's better to get started now than to realize within 6 months that your quarterly results are looking very unimpressive all of a sudden.
Anna, is there anything that we should have talked about that we didn't talk about yet?
I mean, it might be interesting to talk about just the general impact of AI on our lifestyle. I think things are really, really changing for us in society. Outside of corporate efficiency and outside of trying to keep up with the change, and outside of the massive opportunity that's for companies who will capitalize on this early, there is also just individual impact for all of us as humans, right? And I think now more than ever, we need to also find the time to invest in real human relationships, connect more with real people in a real way, do things that are more meaningful for our spirit and our soul, so we don't burn out from all of this change that is happening so rapidly and is not going to stop anytime soon. Thank you so much, Sumik. What a great interview. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it is really nice to have you talk not only about the technology, but also the culture behind it, the mindset. And definitely, it is interesting to hear about your thoughts about being the dopamine queen and the philosophy behind it. It is really fun. I'm hoping our listeners gained a lot from this conversation. And if they want to learn more, they can obviously reach out to you. We'll post a link to your LinkedIn profile. And I'm sure they can definitely learn about you by Googling you anyway, or chat GPT you, I think. But yeah.
Oh, wow. There we go.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. It's definitely been very interesting. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully we'll listen to you again in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All the best. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.